This past Sunday, Father Victor was preaching. He made mention of remember our mission statement, St. Stephen's mission statement. Commented on it. I commented to him at a meeting later on, and he had preached half of my sermon for this Sunday. But let's consider that as a prologue that leads into this particular Sunday, which is going to lead into a series of Sunday sermons throughout October, have its culmination on the Feast of All Saints, which happens to be the first Sunday of November the 1st. We've agreed that we will begin our sermon with a text. Now, many preachers will come into the pulpit and will announce a text. It will be a text from the Scripture, and then we'll preach on that. My custom over almost 50 years now is simply read the Gospel and go straight from the Gospel and let those readings into the sermon. So we're going to start with a text, and it's going to be the mission statement. St. Stephen's accepts everyone who wishes to follow Christ, worship together, grow in faith, and share God's love through service to others. We'll take that mission statement and draw from it the sermons that are being preached over the following Sunday. We're going to begin with St. Stephen's accepts everyone who wishes to follow Christ. Accepts everyone. In the letter to the Hebrews, there's a note made there of what are human beings that you are mindful of them. Mortal, lower than the angels, be crowned with glory and honor. Comes in Psalm number 8. What are human beings that you are mindful of them? Question being asked of God. And of course the answer is, I created them. I created you. You are part of my whole creation. Remember Genesis chapter 1. God creates this. He said, let there be this, and it was. And it was good. And he created that, and it was good. And he created something else, and that was good. And he created human beings, and it was very good. It was very good. So the answer to that, what are humans that you are mindful of them? Because I love them. And I created them. And I declare them to be very good. Now, they're not like the angels or spiritual beings which are in the presence of God all the time. We're lower than the angels. We're mortal. We walk with our limitations on God's earth, but we belong to God. We belong to Him. We're called to be in a relationship with Him because He created it. He declared us very good. But then things went wrong, didn't they? All you have to do is to read the second chapter of Genesis. You get that picture. The separation that we made from God who created us. The crowned with glory and honor. All that started to fall away. We turned our backs on it. And we started making judgments about people. We started separating one from another. It's not supposed to be that way. And so, God enters into the picture to make a change. Bring things back the way they should be. And we're at the beginning, chapter 1. make things new. 5 chapter 2. And Jesus is there to make sure that that happens. Well, the problem is that there are those who are not really allowing it to happen. It was one part of the sermon from last week. And this time, we have the disciples there with Jesus. And people start bringing children. Well, you know, children are not really important. They're things. They're property. You breed and you got people that can work in the fields and so on. There's not really a lot of respect and love for children. Well, that kind of attitude doesn't exist. It exists. But then when people start bringing children to Jesus, the disciples got in the way. They said, come on, don't be such a bomb. Send them away. Remember what Jesus got angry. Indignant, I think is the word they used in the gospel reading. But he got angry. He was not about to reject the children. He was not going to allow his disciples, who are really sort of working as like the Secret Service surrounding Pope Francis when he was here for a visit. We've got to protect the center. We don't want too much interference. Well, Jesus is not going to allow that. No, nor did Pope Francis. He got to the crowds, and the crowds got to him in spite of the Secret Service. It was not about to be dissuaded from his ministry. Jesus is not going to be dissuaded from gathering in everything, even the sort of unacceptable, like babies and children. He's not going to have that kind of attitude. And he's not going to allow that attitude to Jesus. So, he is affirming that everybody is welcome. There's no distinction. You don't make prejudicial statements. You're not allowed to prejudge. He's allowed to do that. He's not going to do it. So, they are called into his presence. And he takes them up in his arms and he blesses them. I'm not going to allow his disciples, his followers, the ones that have been with him all the time, to stand in the way. The last thing I need to have happen in my life is to get Jesus to be mad at me because I've started separating people out and making the judgment. I really would rather not have him get mad at me. So I'm going to have to be very careful not to make those kinds of divisions and separations. When I first read through our mission statement, it was really very nice. But Jesus, St. Stephen accepts everyone who wishes to follow Christ. And, maybe it ought to be St. Stephen welcomes everyone who wishes to follow Christ. But that seems to be so much easier to do. I thought about it. Welcome's not the right word. Accept is the right word. Because it doesn't make distinction. It's not sweetness and light. It's not glad handing. It's simply accepting whoever comes. You're not allowed to make a judgment about it. The wonderful thing about this is that is our stewardship. Is to be the stewards of God's creation, to accept the things which God has given us, to recognize that we're very good. Declared to be very good. Doesn't mean we always behave that way. But if we fall and accept others coming into it, that's when the opportunity for glory and honor and new and renewed relationship with God can take place. Not just for the person entering in, but for those who are already there. We benefit all the way around. Jesus really calls his disciples to account. He calls to the account the gospel reading before. And I'm not giving anything away by telling you that he's going to get on their case again. I know which one it is. I wish I could preach on that too. Now, there's great stuff here, because he's calling us all to account. And it's not just an occasional thing. There's a whole bunch of them. So, Mark's doing a good job. Isn't that a wonderful opportunity to read what St. Stephen accepts everyone, wish the Father. And in that, we'll be crowned with glory and honor. That's what God has